Welcome back for this final segment of Broncos Beat. With quarterback and injured players returning to UC Health Training Center on Thursday, I figured we could discuss some of the must-follow storylines surrounding these guys, starting with the one and only Drew Lock. This time last year, it's interesting because we were talking about how much he needed to learn behind Joe Flacco, but seriously, what a difference a year can make. Now, there's no one in front of him. You guys, what are your expectations for Drew Lock as he enters his first training camp as the Broncos starting quarterback?
I mean, if the narrative right now is to be believed, anything less than 6,000 yards and 60 touchdowns would be a disappointment. But no, I think he's going to do well. I think he has a chance to be a top half of the league quarterback. Yeah, he's got some mechanical issues to clean up, specifically with that footwork. It's real sloppy. But, the guy's a high-wattage personality. He gets guys to want to play for him. And that's so much of the quarterback position is more than just throwing the ball. It's getting guys to buy in and want to play for you. Drew does that. And, I think the Broncos can be really successful if he does clean up those little things.
I think that's the biggest point that Ben made, and I've talked to other players about this. It's that infectious personality he has that brings guys around and guys want to play him. And Phillip Lindsay kind of broke it down to me best, where he was like, man, he gets in this zone. If we can get him in that zone, he kind of compared it to basketball, right? Like where a guy becomes kind of unconscious. Like we just got to find a way to get him there every Sunday. But when he's in that, he kind of is out there, making plays, doing things, getting guys fired up. That's the type of guy you need. And I think personality trait in a young quarterback that's really important as he's trying to get his feet wet in the NFL. If he can figure out getting into that zone as much as possible to where he's just out there playing, freewheeling a little bit in a sense, I think that helps him, and that is contagious around players. And I think that's what's going to bring guys around in an offseason unlike any other, to where he can kind of galvanate things. He did it with the workouts, but at the same time do it once they officially hit the field.
This is why the most pressure is on Pat Shurmur. Rich Scangarello did a fine job preparing that offense last year in 5 games. We're all excited about Drew Lock and that 4-1 start. Rich Scangarello doesn't get a lot of credit there. Drew Lock gets a lot of the credit, and for good reason. But Shurmur, your offense had better look better than Scangarello's offense in those last 5 games, or people will start talking. And I'm glad that you brought up Phillip Lindsay, because I believe it's that ground game. It's that rushing attack. Quarterback's best friend. It's those tight ends. Plural games, tight ends, and it's the ground game. It's the rushing attack. Phillip Lindsay, Melvin Gordon, those guys could be great assets to help, calm down Drew Lock and help get him in that zone.
All right, let's move along to a couple of guys coming off of injury. The one Broncos country is looking forward to most, of course, Bradley Chubb, who has won the local media vote for the Broncos' most likely candidate to win Comeback Player of the Year. The last time a linebacker won Comeback Player of the Year was 2007. It was former Cowboy Greg Ellis who returned from that Achilles tear and racked up 12.5 sacks. Is that the target number then for Bradley Chubb this year, 12.5 sacks?
It's an audacious number. That would top his rookie season. It would put him in the upper echelon of pass rushers. It's kind of tough with Vic Fangio's scheme, which is philosophically opposite of what Wade Phillips used to do. Wade used to send everything but the kitchen sink, try to get to the quarterback and throw your DBs on an island. Vic Fangio wants everybody to drop back in zone and send the least amount of guys at the quarterback that he does. Now, I think Bradley and Vaughn are uniquely capable of doing that. I don't know if 12.5 sacks is that seems a little high, but 10 is a good round number. If he can get to 10, anything else than that is gravy.
I think this is a good offseason for Bradley Chubb. We talk about how insane this offseason has been for so many players. I talked to people around Bradley and to him specifically this offseason. Actually, the pandemic played into his hands. Injured players were the only people allowed at the facility. It was roughly like him and Phillip Lindsay and a handful of guys that had the entire facility at their beck and call to use every aspect of that weight room, to use everything that the Broncos facility had with no players around. It actually, in Phillip Lindsay and Bradley Chubb's perspective, helped them get further ahead in this offseason as they recover than they would have in perhaps a normal offseason. He wasn't going to do anything during OTAs and minicamp anyways, other than just some stuff on the side. Having the facility to his own might have sped things up a little bit for a guy that partially tore his ACL, remember, not a full ACL tear too, which is a big determining factor in his recovery.
Well, I don't want to be the hype guy like Colin Cowherd is for Drew Lock, but I might put 12.5 sacks as his floor. I look at 15 sacks as that number. 10, Ben, you're right on the money. 10 is where he needs to be. He needs to get 10, or people will start talking about what's going on there. No. 10, 12, 15. Let's put it somewhere in there. And Ben, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think Ellis went to the Pro Bowl that season as well. So if we're talking about a true comeback player of the year, that's 12-ish sacks, love the ish, and a Pro Bowl appearance for Bradley Chubb. That sounds really doable.
I love it. Okay, James, you mentioned Phillip Lindsay returning from injury. We all remember when he had his wrist scoped back in January. So it wasn't a huge surgery, but he still was, like you mentioned, working out in the facility throughout this entire offseason. So are we about to witness the best version of Phillip Lindsay?
That'd be great, right? I mean, we've had 2,000-yard seasons out of him in his NFL career. It'd be great to even top that. Now, he does believe he is going to be used differently, and that means in a manner in which let's not run Phillip up the middle for 3 yards to set up the pass. Let's find ways to get him the football out in space to where he can do things. And I'm not saying he can't run between the tackles, but let's find more opportunities for him to be the guy to make something happen. And I think this year that could be the case more so than last year because you have more talent around him, and now you can have him be fresher. You mentioned the scope on the wrist. That shows me that he was not very comfortable this past season carrying the football in that arm. And so having that even be healthier and fixed, he can hopefully be used as a pass catcher a little bit more this year. That was kind of taken away, not as much because of his lack of ability there, but maybe because some other people couldn't do some other things. He was forced into a different role. So I would see him being used more strategically and explosive and be fresher and healthier this year. So maybe, and we see a lot of more big chunk plays from Phillip Lindsay.
Okay, guys, that is all the time we have for today's edition of Broncos Beat. Thank you so much for joining us. We will see you right back here next Monday, same time, same place.